Anyway, let's move on now to the great debate with Donald Trump taking on Kamala Harris. Now, if you missed it, here are some of the highlights.
She was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out. Wait a minute, I'm talking now. If you don't mind, please. Does that sound familiar? In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country, and it's a shame.
Growing what we can do around American manufacturing and opening up auto plants, not closing them like happened under Donald Trump.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
It didn't happen under Donald Trump. Let me just tell you, they lost 10,000 manufacturing jobs this last month.
Now, we're going to talk about the issues with fact-checking later on, but regardless of all that, this was not a good debate for Trump. Kamala outperformed him on clarity and tone, and even though many of her answers were evasive, to the average voter, that mattered. But one area where Kamala was incredibly weak was the economy. And even CNN noted that her plan to improve the economy seems to be mainly based on the fact that she claims she grew up middle class.
Vice President Harris began the debate by punting the first question on the economy.
Do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
So I was raised as a middle-class kid. And I am actually the only person on this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle class and working people of America.
It went on from there. Despite the economy being the #1 issue facing the country, the sitting vice president generally reverted to talking points about a few of her policy proposals. Even Harris allies today are saying that she needs to talk more about what she will do for Americans if elected. Senator Bernie Sanders will be here in a second to talk about more about the need for her to fill in some of those blanks. On the border, another vulnerable issue for Harris, she also dodged.
Would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings.
Okay, that wasn't the question. When asked how she would break through the Israel-Hamas war stalemate, Harris said this.
We need a ceasefire deal, and we need the hostages out. And so we will continue to work around the clock on that.
Okay, but again, how?
Now, this is where the debate fell apart for me as a viewer. Harris dodged questions, as is her right, but the moderators let it slip. Now, whenever Trump moved off topic, they made a point of telling the audience he had done so. It's a subtle sleight of hand, but it does have an impact. And of course, the worst example of it all was this one-sided fact-checking.
You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of President Trump. As you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But you have said, quote, you lost by a whisker, that you, quote, didn't quite make it, that you came up a little bit short. You did bring up something. You said she went to negotiate with Vladimir Putin. Vice President Harris, have you ever met Vladimir Putin?
But on the other hand, Harris told numerous lies, but the moderators did not balk.
What you're going to hear tonight is a detailed and dangerous plan called Project 2025 that the former president intends on implementing if he were elected again. And be clear on that point. Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath if this and the outcome of this election is not to his liking. Let's remember Charlottesville, where there was a mob of people carrying tiki torches, spewing anti-Semitic hate. And what did the president then at the time say? There were fine people on each side.
Now, during the debate, Harris claimed that Trump said that the election would be a bloodbath, making it seem like he was foreshadowing some sort of civil war. But what he was actually referring to was an economic bloodbath, which is heated rhetoric for sure, but it has a completely different meaning. She also represented Project 2025 as his policy platform when Trump has said plainly that it isn't. And now you can criticise Trump for a lot of things, but how about criticising him for what he actually does or promises to do? Anything else is just sophistry. Now, it was a bad night for Trump because his message on the economy didn't cut through, but the real losers were the journalists moderating the debate. Their credibility has been completely shot by this. James, let's bring you in here. What was your verdict of the debate?
Yeah, so the moderators were completely biased. I mean, my favourite fact check was David Muir saying that he didn't hear the sarcasm in a video about Trump. Like, that's not a fact, that's an opinion. But the thing is, like, I'm a big sports guy, and it's the losing team that complains about the refs. The winning team just wins. And if you're Trump and you're saying 4 years later, I'm still the guy you want to take on Putin, I'm still the guy you want to take on Xi, you're telling me he's going to get rattled by the host of ABC World News Tonight? Like, he should have been better. He should have overcome the moderators. And, you know, we're all sitting at home screaming at a TV like, why aren't you calling out Kamala? Why aren't you calling out Kamala? Trump had a microphone. Where was he to defend himself and say, this is now 3 against 1? Where were you guys going to start having a go at Kamala about the, you know, good people on both sides angle? I think he really missed an opportunity to cement himself and to overcome Kamala. And which makes me think, is Trump actually not that good a debater? Like, in 2016, we saw him just destroy the entire Republican field, right? Lying Ted Cruz, gone. Little Marco Rubio, gone. Low energy Jeb Bush, gone. Ever since then, I just feel Hillary Clinton got the better of him, Biden got the better of him in 2020, and then even in the famous Biden 2024 debate, if you veered your eyes away just enough from the car crash that was happening on one side of the podium, you would have known like Trump wasn't doing that well either.
Yeah, it's a good point. He won because Joe Biden couldn't even get words out.
Yeah.
That's how decrepit he was. I agree with a lot of that. I think that Trump looked like he was flustered. I think a very clever move by Kamala Harris was when I think she baited him by criticising his crowds at his rallies. And then he just became obsessed with this. He couldn't deviate. He didn't need to. You just move on and stick to your plan, which is the economy and it's immigration. It's her record on the economy. It's saying to American people, is your life better now under her or was it better before? That's it. That's the only point. And he got pulled into these rabbit holes about his record rather than staying on her record.
Yeah, I think he was very ill prepared. He lacked discipline. I think the only topic or policy area he actually came out well on was foreign policy. I mean, he's to the point James made about he's not very good at debates. He's never been very good at marshalling policy detail or mounting an argument beyond a slogan. That's always been a weakness of Trump. But he just kept, as you say, going down into rabbit holes, and she didn't really seem to have a strategy other than to goad him and taunt him.
She didn't have policy. I mean, her big economic policy seemed to be a $6,000 baby bonus.
Yeah.
And I mean, that is a policy that you can prosecute if you're a conservative politician. And it just didn't seem like he had done enough research and he had his own counter policies.
Yeah, I think the big flaw in all of it for him was that she was very good at getting him talking about the past and Joe Biden and the past and January the 6th. And I think what that actually did was contrast really favourably with herself and made her look like a new candidate, when in fact, she's been in power for 3.5 years.
She's the incumbent,
She's
really.
not a new candidate. And then that was a major flaw in his approach to that.
So the thing, like Trump's last remark when he says, go down and tell, wake Joe Biden up and get him to do all these things that you're hoping for, that should have been at the first half hour. That should have been the first thing he said. But he waited until the very last moment when, let's face it, most of the countries
and she also sat there and told Americans that he was cognitively fine for years.
Yeah.
And he didn't prosecute the fact that she had lied. How could you trust a thing that she was saying when clearly he was not okay?